Billionaire finds his maid sleeping on a bench with his baby. What happens next is shocking. In the pale hush before sunrise, when the world was still half asleep, a wealthy man stepped out of his grand home, troubled by thoughts he couldn't shake. He was familiar with chaos, authority, and noise, never silence. But that morning, something unusual pulled him out of himself. Near the garden seat, softened by the early morning light, he spotted his maid, the quiet woman who had served his household faithfully for years, fast asleep. Her arms held something fragile and priceless: his baby. Both of them were curled gently together, the child breathing softly against her chest, wrapped in her worn shawl for warmth. The man froze, breath catching. Everything around him seemed to pause. Why was she outside? What happened? He stepped closer, careful not to disturb them. The baby shifted slightly, smiling in her embrace, and that single smile shattered him. He had never witnessed such peace, such tenderness, such pure safety. In that moment he understood. This woman with almost nothing had given his child what money never could. And what he uncovered afterward would reshape both of their lives. Because sometimes the greatest riches aren't locked behind steel gates or hidden in vaults. Sometimes they lie quietly on a simple bench, wrapped not in luxury but in love. Before we continue, kindly tell us in the comments, what time is it where you're watching from? Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. Now let's get back to our story. Before daylight touched the sky, the billionaire stepped outdoors. His massive home stood still behind him, its polished marble echoing nothing but emptiness. He lived a life built on power, precision, and absolute order, yet something about this morning felt off. Heavy. Unsettled. A cold breeze slid through the courtyard as he headed toward the garden to clear his mind. That was when he saw her. His maid, quiet, worn, wrapped in a thin blanket, was asleep on the wooden bench near the fountain. And nestled tightly in her arms, his child. The sight hit him harder than he expected. Her own shawl was wrapped around the baby, shielding it from the cold, while her hands trembled from the chill. Still, she held the child close, refusing to loosen her grip. He stopped in his tracks, breath caught. He had trusted her with so much, but never imagined this. Why was his baby outside in the freezing morning air? Was this carelessness, or something he didn't yet understand? He stepped closer, slow and cautious. The baby's tiny fingers curled around her dress, breathing softly, perfectly calm. The maid's face looked drained, almost fragile, yet peaceful. It wasn't neglect. It was devotion. A kind of devotion that didn't demand recognition. Her name was Elena, the woman most people overlooked. She carried her duties quietly, without complaint, without praise. No family. No wealth. Only an endless well of gentleness. She treated his child as if she were her own. Sang lullabies in a language he never learned, smiled through pains she never spoke about. But last night had been brutally cold. The nursery heater had failed. The baby had cried for hours. The maintenance man didn't show up. And the billionaire had been at a gala, unreachable. So Elena did the only thing she could think of. She wrapped the little girl in her own shawl and stepped outside. Under the stars, she rocked her until the crying faded. The bench became her bed, the blanket her shelter. She fought sleep until exhaustion finally won. And standing there, watching her, he realized this moment would rewrite everything he believed about loyalty, sacrifice, and love. She hadn't planned to drift off. She only meant to close her eyes for a moment. But love kept her awake long after her strength faded. The baby slept soundly in her arms the entire time. When the billionaire stumbled upon them, he saw a scene that confused him, yet beneath it was sacrifice, the kind born from struggle, not comfort. His emotions crashed into each other: anger, shock, guilt, fear. He whispered her name. Elena. She jerked awake, instinctively pulling the baby closer. Her eyes widened. Sir, I'm sorry, she breathed. I didn't mean to, Her voice cracked, tears following before she could stop them. The baby shifted but stayed calm. "You slept outside with my child?" he said, barely recognizing his own voice. She lowered her eyes. "The nursery was too cold, sir." She wouldn't stop crying. The words cut him deeper than he expected. Suddenly, guilt settled in his chest, heavy and sharp. He had been too distracted to notice. Warmth hadn't come from his home, it had come from her arms. Silence stretched between them, long and painful. He looked at her shaking hands, then at his peacefully sleeping child. Something inside him broke, not with rage but clarity. "You could have frozen out here," he murmured. Elena gave a faint, trembling smile. "If she's safe, sir, that's enough." He had never heard loyalty sound so raw. And in that moment, the richest man on the property felt like the poorest one. Later that morning, he asked her to sit. This time he wanted the truth. She hesitated, gripping her shawl. He spoke gently. "Elena, tell me everything." She did. She told him about the family she once had, the husband taken by tragedy, the baby girl she lost because she couldn't afford medicine. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "I couldn't save my child. So when I hold yours, it feels like God gave me a chance to protect one more." The room fell silent. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. The billionaire felt his throat tighten, tears blurring the world he thought he understood. In Elena, he suddenly saw the weight she carried, and the love she poured into a child that wasn't hers, yet somehow healed her anyway. Her lullabies weren't routine, they were echoes of the daughter she lost. Her tenderness wasn't duty, it was the only piece of hope she had left. He bowed his head, shaken. He had money but no warmth. She had sorrow but endless grace. And in one painful moment, he realized she had given his child a love he never knew how to give. That evening he gathered his family. They assumed Elena's job was gone. Instead, his voice softened. "She saved my daughter." Shock rippled through the room. "She sat in the cold so my child could sleep warm while I had no idea what was happening." Elena trembled, confused, until he stepped forward, then slowly knelt. "I never saw your heart," he whispered. "Today I finally did." He offered her a room inside the home, a permanent place close to the baby she had protected. A life of peace, respect, belonging. No one had ever seen him cry, until that moment. He lifted his child, then looked at Elena with gratitude that couldn't be faked. "From today, your family." For the first time in years, she smiled without breaking. Because sometimes, kindness is powerful enough to soften even the wealthiest heart. And sometimes, the woman everyone overlooks ends up teaching a billionaire how to be human again. The billionaire began noticing things he once overlooked. Elena's soft humming as she folded tiny clothes, the way his daughter stretched her arms toward her first, the gentle warmth she carried into every room. He watched her differently now, not with doubt but with deep respect. She didn't just do her job, she breathed life into it. She wasn't serving a household, she was stitching it back together. One morning he offered her a necklace, a small golden heart. "For the woman who keeps mine beating," he said quietly. Elena shook her head. "I don't need anything, sir. Her smile is enough." But he pressed it into her hands. "You showed me love isn't something you buy. It's something you give." Her tears said more than words ever could. From that moment, the mansion changed. Warmth replaced the cold corners. Laughter returned. Something sacred had begun, something no wealth could manufacture. But life tests even the purest hearts. One night, the baby's breathing faltered, her tiny body growing frighteningly cold. Chaos erupted, doctors rushing, machines beeping, panic thick in the air. Yet Elena stood steady, calm, unshaken. She lifted the baby to her chest and began humming the same lullaby she once sang to the child she lost. "Please, not this one," she whispered through trembling tears. The billionaire could do nothing but watch and trust her. Minutes stretched like eternity. Then something shifted. The baby's breaths evened out, slow, steady, alive. A soft flush returned to her cheeks. The room stilled. Even the doctor stopped talking. Elena exhaled a fragile smile. She's all right. The billionaire covered his face as tears broke free. He knew it wasn't the machines. It wasn't the medicine. It was love, pure, stubborn love, that pulled his daughter back. Silence wrapped the room, broken only by the baby's tiny coos. And that night he understood. Some prayers are spoken through tears, not words. Days later, Elena felt the weight of whispers, the invisible lines people drew around her. Just a maid. Too attached. Too present. So she packed her small bag and left a note on the table. Thank you for everything. She walked toward the gate, until a familiar voice stopped her. The billionaire stood there, his daughter in his arms. Leaving without a goodbye? Elena froze. I don't fit here, sir. People talk. He stepped closer and gently placed the baby back in her arms. You fit exactly where love fits, he said. You're not her maid, you're her protector. Her tears fell freely. You're staying, he whispered. With us. The baby giggled as if sealing the promise. The gate stayed open behind her, but her heart closed it for good. She wasn't running anymore. Love had given her a home, and for the first time she believed she deserved one. Seasons passed. The child grew bold and bright. And every milestone, every smile, every stumble, Elena was there. The billionaire grew softer, wiser. He no longer counted wealth in dollars but in moments. Elena became more than the woman who cleaned rooms, she became the heartbeat of the home. The little girl called her Mama Elena, and that name alone changed everything. The mansion, once cold and distant, felt alive again. Every photo on the wall showed the shift, from emptiness to warmth, from pride to humility. Elena never asked for praise. Her only joy was the child's smile. And whenever people asked the billionaire what transformed his life, his answer was simple. One woman loved my daughter more deeply than I ever loved myself. He learned that real wealth isn't in marble floors or gold chandeliers. It's in the hands that hold you, the love that stays. Elena had lost everything once, yet she gave love like someone who still had everything to give. The child grew up with two parents, one by blood, one by grace. And she learned that family isn't defined by birth, but by who refuses to leave when life gets cold. Elena's story spread quietly, touching lives far beyond the mansion walls. Even after she passed, her presence lingered, in every laugh, every bedtime story, every sunrise. The billionaire often said, she didn't work for me. She worked for love. And in the end, that became his redemption. Proof that one humble woman can teach even the richest man how to be human again. You found this story interesting? Like and subscribe for more inspiring and entertaining stories. Thanks for watching.